Hey YouTube, thanks for coming back to Cruising with Wheels. Today we're talking about the top 3, in our opinion, of the mainstream cruise lines, the differences between cabins and what they might be called. Not every cruise line calls their handicap accessible cabins the same thing, and some cruise lines have a variety of handicap accessible cabins available. So that's what we're talking in this video. So I stumbled upon a few weeks ago that Carnival, thank God, has actually come up with new classifications for their handicap accessible cabins.
Right. Very, very awesome news since we fell victim to
their shenanigans.
The shenanigans when we went on the Carnival.
We were on the Carnival Valor in 2016. I called and I said that we wanted a full turn access handicap accessible cabin, and they put us in a
what they called a modified at the time, right?
At the time, yes, a modified,
right.
Which was a nightmare to deal with.
Right, which means that only the bathroom was set up for a wheelchair, but the actual cabin with the beds was a regular sized cabin, which means I could not move around. In fact, I couldn't even get in and out of the cabin. I couldn't even get in and out of the bathroom. It was a regular sized cabin. It was crazy.
So we're going to go through the 4 new classifications that Carnival has available for their handicap accessible cabins.
And it's dependent on your
level of need.
Right, and mobility issues that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that you are booking the right cabin for you.
Right.
So
thank you, Carnival.
Yes, thank you for doing that, Carnival. And then we're going to go talk about Royal Caribbeans and NCL. So we know that Carnival Cruise Line now has 4 classifications.
What are they?
And that is dependent on the reason why they have 4 is because they have a vast number of ships in their fleet. Some of their ships are older, some of them newer. So the first classification that they've come up with is FAC.
Ooh.
FAC means it's a fully accessible cabin, right, Frank?
That's what I would need.
That's what we usually get for Frank, so that he's able to get in and out of the cabin without any assistance from myself or...
Right. Fully accessible cabins contain accessible elements, including turning space, accessible routes throughout the stateroom, and an accessible bathroom. Additionally, the bathrooms contain grab bars and shower seats. Awesome!
The next classification is known as FAC-SSA, which means that it's a fully accessible cabin with a single side approach.
Ah.
What's that mean, Frank? What does it say?
Is that regard to the bed issue?
I think it's the bed. But let's read what they said. It says, these staterooms are designed for use by guests with highly limited or no mobility, which require the regular use of a wheelchair, scooter, or other similar assistive device. The fully accessible cabins, single-side approach, are a type of FAC, which we just discussed, the fully accessible cabins, that provide an accessible route and a clear floor space on only one side of the bed, in staterooms configured to provide only one bed. And a stateroom configured to provide 2 beds, so in other words, 2 singles, which they convert into a king.
Correct. We do not sleep in separate single beds.
No. This is not the 1950s. We sleep in the same bed. The clear floor space will be between the beds, with one side of each bed getting an accessible route. Additionally, these staterooms have an accessible bathroom that contains grab bars and shower seats.
Love it. Okay.
The next classification
the
third is, what's it say?
It says ambulatory accessible cabins, known as AAC. Now, these staterooms are designed for use by guests with mobility limitations who do not require the regular use of a wheelchair or scooter.
They're ideal for guests who only use
Maybe
an assistive device.
Right, like a cane or a walker.
Yeah, a cane or a walker. So, as a someone that travels with a guest that's in a wheelchair, please ask if you only need an accessible cabin because you have a walker or a cane, and you just want to have some, grab bars in the bathroom for balance. Ask for a AAC cabin or an ambulatory accessible cabin.
Because you're able to kind of get around.
And then it opens up those cabins for
people like us.
People like us that need the wheelchair accessible cabin.
If you don't need a full turnaround, because don't get one because you're just taking up a cabin for someone who really needs it and can't walk. So again, it's one of my pet peeves.
Now the last category for cabins amongst Carnival, as far as generalizations, because they also have categories within the cabins, but it would be a standard cabin. And basically, a standard cabin, the entry door will only be 22 inches wide, and there will be an 8-inch lip into the bathroom in the cabin, and a 4-inch lip into the shower stall, and a 7-inch lip to the balcony. So in all of the previous cabins that we've discussed, the first three, they have a 36-inch doorway, because then it will allow someone in a wheelchair to get in and out. And there are no lips.
There are small incline ramps.
Incline ramps
into the bathroom.
Or a little hump.
Or to
so
the balcony.
that we can get out.
So
that's on Carnival's aspect to their cabins. We do want to say that you want to ask your PCP, which is your personal cruise consultant. I don't know what the letters stand for, but your personal cruise consultant.
That's what I call
Or your travel agent, just to make sure that it fits within the category that you require.
Remember, your mobility scooter or power wheelchair or manual wheelchair, like I have, must always be in your cabin.
And the cruise lines have specifications to the size limit. And the battery type. If you are in a wheelchair or a power wheelchair or a power scooter.
Now, again, someone with mobility issues in a wheelchair or scooter, what if the ship is not able to dock at the destination and they're out in the water and you have to tender in on a small boat to the island?
You've been in this situation.
I have been in this situation. Now, there have been instances where I have been able to get on the tender because they have a ramp that can get me off of the cruise ship onto maybe the upper level of a tender boat they have. And then there are other cases where I could not go because
of the stairs.
I'm not going to be able to get down 15 stairs to a moving tender boat. That's not going to happen.
It depends on your ship. It depends on
the tender boat that's being
tender
used
boat
to
that's
transport.
being used. So those are all questions that you'll need to ask, and very often you won't have the answers to those questions until you're on board. So don't get frustrated. Just try to pick if you know that you're in a scooter or a power wheelchair and that's the only way that you can get around. Then don't book a cruise that's going to tender, because you're not going to know if you're going to be able to go to that port. Or we knew that there was a possibility, so I went on shore
The 1 year they didn't have the dock
Right.
built, so Kevin tendered in without me. I stayed on the ship. But when we went again on another cruise, the dock to the island of Tortola was built, and our cruise ship was able to dock, and I was able to get off and go on and see what this was all about.
Yep.
Now remember, for safety concerns, the cruise ship prohibits the crew from carrying individuals onto or off of tenders. They will not allow. So you can't say, well, listen, if you can get my wheelchair on the tender boat, maybe we can get some of the crew members to just carry me on. Not going to happen. That's a safety issue.
So on Royal Caribbean, they have much the same as Carnival, with the exception of Royal Caribbean's hallways are a little bit wider. They claim that you can do a 180-degree turn in a wheelchair in most of their hallways. Now, I have to say that some of the newer ships and some of the remodeled ships, they've been doing a great job at making the hallways a little wider. We'll talk about what NCL has done, their initiative, when we get to NCL. But it's great to know that you can fully turn around, because I know we've been on ships where we have to go all the way to the next exit of that hallway before we can turn around.
Right. So then we can't get through. It's quite disturbing.
Now, on Royal Caribbean is the same as Carnival and NCL when it comes to your powered assistive devices.
Right.
All three lines are not going to let you bring a Segway. They're not allowed. It's a safety reason. Also, what are those things? Those hoverboards. You can't bring a hoverboard. And you will need to put your power wheelchair or scooter in your cabin to charge at night. It cannot be out in the hallway. You can't leave it out there. They do say on the Royal Caribbean website that standard doors are usually 23 inches wide, and their accessible doorways are usually 32 inches wide. In some cases, they may be a little bit larger. So you're going to want to check when you book your accessible cabin with Royal Caribbean how wide that door is.
Like us, we're always asking for dimensions. When we book the room, I want to know what's the square footage of the room. Because if it doesn't sound right, then it's not the right handicap room.
Exactly. Exactly. So the last cruise line we're going to talk about is one of our favorites. It's Norwegian Cruise Line, and frankly, we think that they are the most handicap accessible that we've traveled on. They seem to have a lot of public restrooms that are handicap accessible.
Automatic door openers.
In some cases, they have automatic door openers. The older ships don't.
And when they start to remodel and dry dock their ships for a total redo, on the last cruise we went, even the casino had been redesigned and was certainly more spacious than the 2 years prior when we were on that ship. And I thought,
and I think they added a bathroom or two. So their cabins on NCL only come one way.
Right.
All of their handicap accessible cabins are full turn access cabins, which is great. The doors are all going to be 36 inches wide. There won't be any lips. There won't be any grades. There'll be like some grading to get into the bathroom, but it's very, very accessible. You'll have benches in the showers. Now, the little special thing that NCL has been doing lately is replacing all of their housekeeping carts. They actually, instead of having a wider, shorter cart.
It was low and it was wide. And if the room stewards were cleaning your cabin and you were trying to get down the hallway, it was a nightmare. I mean, Kevin was trying to push the wheelchair, shift the cart, and we were kind of...
move the bag.
And kind of trying to scooch through as best we could. And then we had a nice sit-down conversation with the cruise ship's hotel director, and he informed us that they had just purchased an entire new design of a cart, which instead of being low and wide was now taller and narrower. Right, and included the bag actually in the cart, as well as the cloth bag for the dirty linen. So instead of having this metal cart in the way with a giant paper garbage bag for trash and a blue cloth laundry bag for the dirty linens, it was all going to be part of the one metal cart.
So kudos.
Kudos. We were so happy to hear that.
So we want to also tell you that all of these cruise lines, all three, have an access desk or a special needs desk. I will link their information for the different cruise lines below. I'll try to include phone numbers and email addresses to the special needs departments.
And like NCL and probably the other lines, they will probably, after you make a reservation, download a special needs form in which you will have to answer questions about what your needs are.
What your needs are, how big your wheelchair is, what does it weigh, what are the dimensions. And they want to make sure that you're going to be able to traverse.
Right.
And I love that word.
He loves that word, traverse.
Traverse the ships.
And it's not only for mobility issues, but they also, on the special needs form, talks about dietary needs, diabetes, pregnancy, hearing impaired, visually impaired. It goes down the whole list. It's about 5 or 6 pages long. You fill it out and you can fax it in.
Or email
it in. And then they have it on record.
In addition to all the things that we discussed about the differences with the cruise lines and the similarities, one of the things that all three will do for their special needs guests is early boarding. They want to get on everybody that's in a wheelchair, scooter, or has a problem walking, visually seeing, hearing. They all board early.
Right. We're usually in the special waiting area, and then once the ship is cleared to board, they start moving us all out, and someone is always there next in line, a port associate, to wheel me, as Kevin following behind, and get right on the ship.
They will also have transfers that utilize special ramps and lifts for anybody that can't get in and out of their wheelchair or perhaps doesn't want to. Usually at the end of the day traveling, Frank can't even get out of his wheelchair. So it's nice that they just kind of go and lift you right up. They have boarding and departure assistance. So I know we've utilized that on occasion. They'll push Frank down the gangway and I'll have the bags, or sometimes when we're boarding, they make us do the assistance. They say it's a safety thing, but the last time they didn't. I just pushed you on, which was great.
Kevin's like, I'm not waiting for anyone. We're getting on the ship now. And where's the buffet? My stomach waits for no one.
That's right. On some of the ships, they have scooter assistance, and what I mean by that is they'll pick your scooter up at night, take it down to a little room where they'll...
a maintenance area.
Yep, a maintenance area, and they'll charge it for you, and then they'll bring it back up.
Yep.
It's helpful to them, too, I understand, because sometimes it's too much of a drain on the electrical system of that part of the ship, so they have a special separate area. All three of the cruise lines offer lifts to get in and out of the pools and hot tubs. You are going to want to check with your travel agent or your personal cruise consultant because not all of the ships we've been on have had lifts. So if you're going to require a lift, you really want to, and you're going to utilize it, you really want to make sure that it's on that ship.
Right. It's all about preparation and doing your due diligence that really makes your cruise and your vacation a successful one if you know what you want to do and what your needs are. Just go down that checklist and find out, is that the cruise for you? Is that the cruise line for you? Is that the ship for you?
Now, all 3 cruise lines we know also will have an available, accessible guest relations person. It might not be the person that's behind the desk waiting on everybody, but they have a specialist that knows the best routes, that might answer a question for you or help you get that lift for the pool. And most of the casinos now have accessible tables for gaming, which is nice.
That's right.
So that's pretty much what we wanted to tell you today, is talk to you about the differences between the way Carnival has now categorized their accessible cabins versus Royal and NCL. Like we discussed, Royal and NCL do not have modified cabins.
Handicap is handicap.
Right.
No matter what your issue is, if you're booking a handicap room, you're getting the same room that everyone else has gotten.
So, we hope that you found this information helpful, picked up a little tidbit.
Right.
Remember, I will have links to all the cruise lines and their accessible desks, or accessible desks?
Accessibility desks?
Accessibility desks, access desks,
Access desks.
special needs
Special
desks.
needs desks.
They all call them different things, but I'll have the links below with their phone numbers, hopefully, if I can find them all. And until next time, we want to tell you to
Travel safe.
and cruise often.
See you soon.
Bye. Maybe forget what I was going to say. Time for my cocktail. Hey. Hey. Hey.
Hay is for horses. Beam me up, Scotty.
Say something bright day.
It's a say something bright day. I can't get the engine started, Captain. I'm smiling. It's crazy. We're out of here.